Greetings to our followers. Today we will hear the plight of a woman who has gone through much suffering in life. Join us as our main character shares her painful path that led her to being a sex worker. Hello, I want to share my story as I'm feeling extremely lonely and sad. I was unlucky all my life. All my misfortune in life was also due to the fact that I was naive and easily deceived. My name is Miriam. I'm a 35 years old single woman who lives alone. I'm not doing well financially. Occasionally, I do sex work. That's how I earn living. There is no person who loves me and values me. And I think it will never happen. Yes, I am a sex worker, but there is a long story behind why I ended up doing this job. I wish I hadn't cheated on my husband. I wish I hadn't had an affair with the dentist in the neighborhood. But it's too late for regrets now, and I have to pay the price for my mistakes. Maybe I deserve the miserable life that I have. If someday I meet a decent person who loves me, I will agree to marry him and settle down. I will make him happy. But I cannot meet the right person. I end up meeting the worst types of men. I don't know how people find the right person. In retrospect, I feel ashamed of everything I did in the past. I will tell you my story from the beginning. I really hope that the right person comes along someday. Let me start my story from the beginning. I grew up in a village. I didn't go out much or travel. I was a village girl. Despite being free-spirited by nature, I didn't have many rights. My parents were strict and would impose a dress code on me. I wasn't able to choose my own clothes. At the same time, I couldn't disobey my parents and didn't have much freedom. This is how my life was as I was growing up. I always dreamed of living in the city and being free. I never wished for the life that I have now. I always dreamt about meeting the love of my life, marrying him and living happily ever after. But the happy ending never happened. I didn't finish high school and dropped out. My education was cut short and I was going to be half-educated for the rest of my life. These were the disadvantages of living in a remote village with conservative parents. I wish all women listening to my story find their happiness in life. I spent my childhood doing housework in our village house. My parents had distant relatives who were doing well financially. Those relatives of them somehow found out about me and about how beautiful I was. They asked my parents for my hand. My parents, of course, agreed to this offer as the family was rich. Basically, my family sold me in exchange of money. I got married unwillingly and almost against my will. My husband was a quiet man. He almost didn't speak. I was forcing the words out of his mouth. He had a very strange character. I didn't like his physical appearance either. He was small and not handsome, his head was bald. From the moment I saw him, I disliked him immensely. I never liked him, but agreed to get married to him. After the marriage, I moved to the city with my husband. To be honest, my husband was not a good match for a beautiful, attractive woman like myself. The two of us were not a good fit. We lived in a house separate from his parents in the city. We were living as if we were happy, but I was not happy deep inside. My marriage life did not satisfy me. However, I had more freedom now. I would wear whatever I wanted. He would be at work until evenings. While my husband was at work, I was free to go wherever I wanted. I had become friends with a nice woman in the neighborhood. Her name was Melissa. I would share with her all my problems. I would go to places with her and she would give me advice. She was a very good person and her family was as nice as her. Melissa was my best friend. As I got married at a young age, I needed advice from someone with more experience and vision. Months were passing. I didn't have any children yet and told my husband about this. He agreed. Once I had a terrible toothache. Melissa recommended me a very good dentist in the neighborhood. After I visited the dentist, he told me I had to visit him a few more times as the treatment of several of my teeth would take some time. That man destroyed my life. Unlike my husband, he showed me interest, took me out to dinner and bought me gifts. I got to know him during all the time I went to his dental office. We started meeting outside of hospital. One day, while my husband was away for work for a week, he invited me to dinner and I accepted his offer because I was bored. He was very handsome and it was a pleasure for me to spend time with him. I put on my best clothes. I wore something that would show off my whole physique. He picked me up from the neighborhood in his car. It would be better if the neighbors didn't see us together, otherwise my husband would hear rumors about us. We had a dinner at a nice restaurant. I was tipsy and was curious about how the night would end. It was at this moment that he whispered to my ears, "Let's go to a hotel." There was a hotel right behind the restaurant. As soon as we opened the door of the room, we started kissing. He was kissing me on my lips and throat, and I was kissing him back. He took off my clothes and put me on the bed. This was our first night together. I felt more pleasure with him than I had ever felt with my husband. I had been yearning to experience something like this. We made love until the morning. In the morning, he took me home in his car. As I got out of the car, I kissed him on the lips and thanked him for the night. I went home and our affair started that day. We had an affair for months and the dentist was filling the gap left by my husband. I loved him, I really loved him. I started hating my husband. Melissa found out that I was having an affair with the dentist. How could I do such a thing? Melissa exclaimed. She told me that the dentist was a fraud and that he had many affairs with a number of women in the neighborhood. She told me the dentist was using me. I was rejecting her claims, saying that he loved me and that I would divorce my husband so we could get married. But our affair did not last long. My husband soon found about the dentist and beat him. I learned the truth about the dentist. Turned out that he was married. All my dreams were turned upside down. My husband slapped me and filed for a divorce. I was alone in the city. I didn't know what to do. If I returned to the village, my family would kill me as I had disgraced them. I was homeless, alone, without a husband and a family. I started renting a house. I was going to survive on a little money that I had. When I ran out of money, the landlord demanded the payment. I had no one to borrow money from. All my money was spent on food. That's when I started doing a sex work. The landlord asked me to spend the night with him in exchange for staying in his house, otherwise he would call the police. I had to accept his offer. He forced himself into me. This continued for a week. After that, I had a bad reputation in the neighborhood. I started sleeping with the men in the neighborhood in exchange of money. Sometimes I would choose who to be with. Sometimes I would have no choice but accept the offer from any man. I started sinking low. My life was degrading every day. I had transformed from a village girl to a sex worker. I despise everything. I'm ashamed of myself. I think I can change my current situation if I meet someone decent. May I find the right path.